The laughter stopped the moment Daniel Reed slammed his hands against the conference table and looked directly into the billionaire's eyes. His shirt was wrinkled, his shoes were worn, and there was a tiny dinosaur sticker stuck to the sleeve of his jacket. Everyone in the room had noticed it. Everyone except Daniel, who had spent the entire morning worrying about whether his 8-year-old daughter had eaten breakfast. But now, after 20 minutes of insults, something inside him finally snapped. He leaned forward and said with a trembling voice, "Mock me again, I dare you." The billionaire smiled for 1 second, then Daniel revealed something that made the entire room go silent. If you believe kindness can change lives, that people deserve second chances, and that someone's appearance never tells their whole story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. You never know whose heart might need a little kindness today. Daniel had never imagined himself sitting inside the headquarters of one of the richest men in the country. Just 3 years earlier, he had been working construction jobs, coming home with dust on his face and exhaustion in his bones. Then his wife, Emily, died unexpectedly after a sudden illness, leaving Daniel alone with their little daughter, Lily. He became both father and mother overnight. He learned how to braid hair badly, pack lunches, attend parent meetings, wash tiny socks, and tell bedtime stories even when he could barely keep his eyes open. Money became tighter every month, but Daniel refused to let Lily feel poor. He always told her that having less did not mean being less. For months, Daniel had been searching for stable work. One afternoon, he discovered an opening at Sterling Enterprises, a massive company owned by billionaire Adrian Sterling. Daniel applied for a maintenance supervisor position. He had years of practical experience and excellent references, but he knew he did not look impressive. His best suit had been purchased second-hand. One cuff was slightly loose, and his old leather shoes had cracks near the soles. When Daniel walked into the interview room, 3 executives immediately looked disappointed. Adrian Sterling sat at the end of the table, wearing an expensive black suit and a watch worth more than Daniel's apartment. Adrian barely looked at his resume before asking why a man with Daniel's experience was applying for a position far below his previous level. Daniel simply explained that he needed steady work because he was raising his daughter alone. One executive laughed quietly and asked whether Daniel planned to bring his child to work too. Daniel said nothing. He had heard worse. What the executives didn't know was that Daniel had spent the previous night sitting beside Lily's bed because she had been coughing badly. He had slept for less than 2 hours. He had almost cancelled the interview, but Lily had held his hand and told him, "Daddy, go. You always tell me brave people don't quit." Those words were the only reason he was there. Surprisingly, Adrian hired him. Daniel quickly proved himself. Within weeks, he discovered serious problems in the company's warehouse safety system. He noticed faulty equipment, outdated emergency procedures, and careless maintenance that could have caused a devastating accident. Instead of ignoring the problems, he stayed late and fixed what he could. He submitted detailed reports and personally trained several employees. But success did not make everyone respect him. Some employees mocked his old clothes. Others joked about his single-parent responsibilities. One man even called him the billionaire's charity case. Daniel ignored them because he had learned that pride did not put food on the table. Then came the day that changed everything. Adrian called a meeting after a major investor complained about safety concerns. Nearly 20 people filled the conference room. Daniel stood near the screen, preparing to explain his findings. But before he could begin, one of the senior executives sarcastically asked whether everyone was supposed to trust a maintenance man who carries cartoon stickers on his clothes. The room erupted in laughter. Daniel looked down and saw the little dinosaur sticker on his sleeve. Lily had placed it there that morning before school, telling him it was her "good luck dinosaur." Daniel swallowed his anger. Another executive mocked his worn shoes and said perhaps Sterling Enterprises should provide him with a donation instead of a salary. That was when Daniel's eyes hardened. He slowly walked toward the table and placed a folder in front of Adrian. His voice shook, but he didn't back down. He told them they could laugh at his shoes, his clothes, his single-parent life, and even the sticker his daughter had placed on his sleeve. But they could not mock the work he had done or the people whose lives he had protected. Then he looked directly at Adrian and said, "Mock me again, I dare you." Nobody laughed. Adrian's expression changed. He opened the folder. Inside were photographs, maintenance records, inspection reports, and copies of emails Daniel had sent weeks earlier. Daniel had discovered that a major warehouse support system had been dangerously weakened. If it failed during the upcoming shipment, dozens of employees could have been injured or killed. Adrian's face went pale. He asked why Daniel hadn't gone directly to him. Daniel answered that he had tried 3 times. His reports had been ignored by senior managers who didn't want delays before an important investor event. Adrian stood up. The room became painfully quiet. He asked who had authorized the ignored reports. Nobody answered. Then Adrian noticed something else in the folder. A photograph showed Daniel standing inside the warehouse late at night, repairing a damaged support mechanism himself because there was no one else willing to stay. Adrian stared at the picture for a long moment. He suddenly remembered something his own father had told him years earlier: never measure a person's worth by what they wear. The richest man in the room may be the poorest in character. Adrian looked at Daniel again, but this time there was no arrogance in his eyes. There was respect. The executives responsible for hiding the reports were suspended that afternoon. An independent investigation began. Daniel's safety recommendations were implemented throughout the company, preventing what could have become a catastrophic accident. But the biggest surprise came the following morning. Adrian arrived at Daniel's small apartment without his expensive car or security team. He stood outside holding a simple box. Daniel opened the door and immediately recognized him. Adrian handed him the box. Inside was a brand new laptop, a scholarship certificate for Lily, and an official promotion letter. Daniel stared at the documents, unable to speak. Adrian told him that the promotion wasn't charity. Daniel had earned it. He also admitted something difficult. He said he had judged Daniel when they first met because Daniel looked poor, tired, and ordinary. He had forgotten that ordinary people often carry extraordinary burdens. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He told Adrian that he didn't need pity. Adrian smiled and said he wasn't offering pity. He was offering respect. Then a little voice came from behind Daniel. Lily appeared in her pajamas, holding the same sheet of dinosaur stickers she had used that morning. She looked at Adrian suspiciously and asked whether he was her father's boss. Adrian laughed and said yes. Lily pointed at Daniel's sleeve and proudly announced that the dinosaur was the reason her father had been brave. For the first time in years, Daniel laughed without feeling tired. Months passed. Daniel became one of Sterling Enterprises' most respected managers. But he never forgot where he came from. He created a small employee assistance program for struggling parents, helping workers with childcare, emergency expenses, and flexible schedules. Adrian supported the program with his own money. And something unexpected happened between the two men. They became friends. Not because Daniel needed Adrian's wealth. Not because Adrian needed Daniel's loyalty. But because both men had learned that dignity cannot be purchased, and kindness cannot be measured by a bank account. Years later, Adrian would tell people that the most important lesson of his life came from a tired single father wearing cracked shoes and a dinosaur sticker. Daniel would simply smile and say that all he had done was refuse to let someone else's opinion decide his worth. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who may be struggling silently, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more stories about courage, kindness, and second chances. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need them. And before you leave, I have one special request: Comment, kindness makes us stronger. Below if you believe that a person's heart matters more than their clothes, money, or social status. Because sometimes the person everyone laughs at is the person strong enough to save everyone else. Daniel walked into that room as a poor single father whom people thought they could mock. He walked out as a respected leader, not because he became rich, but because he never allowed hardship to make him cruel. And that is the kind of wealth no billionaire can ever buy.